Episode 403 coming your way here on Hooked on Sports. My name is John Flynn. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today. And we have a lot of things to go over on for today's podcast. Of course, we got to talk about Michigan winning a natty for the first time in 37 years. We got to talk about the Jo Adell show in Anaheim, some other baseball takes, and if the San Francisco Giants have an actual general manager and they know what's going on over there. We got to talk about the Red Sox, the ABS system now with about 2 weeks of games under the belt. I'll give you my takes and my evaluations on that. We got the Masters coming up this week in golf. Because it's like the one weekend of the year where I take golf seriously. So I have a couple of I have like three or four candidates that I think will win the Masters. We got the NFL draft coming up, so I'm gonna tell you who some of my favorite prospects that I think will come out of the draft this year, and why I think we might already know who the Dallas Cowboys might be taking with one of their two first round picks this year. I'll give you a take on that if he is available. Dexter Lawrence wants out of New York, so I'll tell you what I think is going to happen there, and then some wild stuff in the in NHL and the women's college basketball championship. So we have we got to start with the big story of the past few days. So the final four is history in another final four. It's done and it's over, and Michigan wins their first national title in men's college basketball since 1989. Said they defeated the UConn 69-63 in the national championship game last night. This comes on the heels of Michigan just blowing the doors out of Arizona in the Final Four, and they used what thought was the best roster in college basketball all year to be able to be able to defeat UConn's in the championship. So we have so many things about this, and I think we start with Michigan and how they were able to defeat UConn. And I felt like when you have like such a big physical front court with Michigan, so you have to be able to be able to back it up by defending well from within the perimeter. And I thought Michigan did that remarkably well last night. Because like UConn was just trying to get some sets inside, and I just thought they defended exceptionally well, and I thought they were disciplined. I think Michigan played their best played at their highest defensive level over the last three games. The blowout win over Tennessee in the Elite Eight, and then Arizona in the Final Four, and then last night against UConn, in the Nannies. So I'm gonna pull some of the 2 points the 2 point stats up. So UConn overall shot just 31% from the field. Again, UConn was 9 of 33 from 3 point range. So they were basically only 12 of 35 from within from inside the 2 point range. And if you look at what look at what Ade Barrett did last night, is that neutralizing Tara Reid. I thought he did such a great job. Yaxel Lendenborg, despite a bad angle, he played 36 minutes and I thought played some great defense. Um, Elliot Cadeau capped off an amazing run, winning the most outstanding player of the tournament. And I will say, I think the one thing that scared me a little bit about Michigan, what was the guard play. But Elliot Cadeau, because their backup point guard LJ Kaysen got hurt 6 weeks ago. So I don't know how much of a workload Elliot Cadeau would take, but he was outstanding, and he scored 19 points, and went 5 and 11 from the field. And then the one thing I will say, I think the shot that won the game for Michigan. I mean, it was a 6 point game, but up to the, I think it was like the 11-minute mark of the second half, said that the Michigan had gone like 0 for 10, 0 for 11 from 3 point range, and UConn did such a great job for not allowing them to have those good looks from beyond the arc. But Elliot Cadeau hitting a 3 pointer, I think single handedly foiled the plans that UConn had. Then Trey McKinney hit another big 3 pointer with 2 minutes left. In I said to extend the lead from 6 points to 9 points. It was immediately after UConn missed an easy layup that would have trimmed a deficit from 6 points to 4 points. That would have put a lot of pressure and intensity on Michigan. But Dusty May did such an exceptional job with constructing this team, and this was mainly off of transfers that you think of. So Lindeborg, Cadeau, and all those other cats who transferred from other colleges, and as a result, Michigan was the best team I saw all year, and it was no secret how good they were. I mean, because and so that it's that blowing out all of those opponents in that pre-conference tournament in November, including because I think they blew out Gonzaga by 40 points. It wasn't an accident. They were just the best team I saw all year, and the only two teams that I was going to that I considered cutting down the nets when the bracket came out. The only two teams were Arizona and Michigan, and I said last week that the winner of the national title was going to come from that Arizona versus Michigan game. I wouldn't say that would have been much of a guarantee if Arizona won, because Michigan was just so imposing, and one of the most analytically dominant teams that we've ever seen, and they got rewarded for by with winning the national championship last night. So that was some high level play. But I will say the turning point of the game was the hook and hold foul that was called on Alex Caravan. I think that came with, it came with 3 minutes left in the first half, because you kind of was up by 2 points, and then Caravan was holding, and I think his elbow was around. I believe it was Johnson. It was either Johnson or Mara trying to go up for that defensive rebound. He was called for that. It was upgraded to a flagrant one. And then Michigan made both their free throws. They scored on the ensuing possession. and UConn never had to leave the rest of the game after that. So all of those things led to Michigan winning, but still, it's such another incredible run for Dan Hurley and UConn. So they won 18 of they went 18-2 in the last four tournaments, and their two losses were a one possession loss against the number one seed in round two, where they were drawn as an eight. Uh, they were drawn on the eighth line last year, and then a two possession loss to Michigan, the number one seed and one of the most analytically dominant teams of our lifetime in the national championship game. And I thought UConn played hard. They put so much effort. I thought it was valiant, but I think they needed to play perfect basketball, and I think some of the fundamentals of shooting while being defended, I don't think they were great enough to overcome the challenges that Michigan had. And I will say, I think Michigan looked out when preparing for this game. I think they looked at what St. John's did to UConn in the Big East championship game. And so, which was overwhelmed them from inside the arc and inside the paint, and that's really what transpired there. So, congrats to the Wolverines, win a championship, be a more than deserved national champions, and I can't and that draws the college basketball season to an end. Now, do want to sprinkle some takes on Major League Baseball. So I'm gonna start with the last thing that's on the ticker down below if you are watching the podcast on YouTube. So Jo Adell, the that once a promising prospect for the LA Angels, that might have turned in one of the single greatest defensive games in the history of Major League Baseball. He was playing right field for the Angels on Saturday in their game against the Seattle Mariners, and he took away not one, not two, but three home runs in a game with where the final score was 1-0 in favor of the home team, and the image at the end, taken by Kay Krause, who was right there when Adele made that third catch where he had to leap over that wall near the right field foul pole. So that is one of the most defining sports images of baseball for in at least the recent memory, and one of the most iconic images we've seen in sports in quite a while as well. And just think, Jo Adell was such a shaky outfield defensively, and like he worked very hard on improving his outfield defense during the off season, and that performance on Saturday was a direct reflection of the energy he put into improving his craft in the off season. So great job by Jo Adell, and the Angels are 6-5. They're off to a good start in the Kurt Suzuki managerial era. But then you look at that, and then you look at Tony Vitello of the Giants, and we knew that. I mean, I knew that Tony Vitello was going to be one of the most talked about figures in baseball this year because he went straight from being a head coach in college and all the way up to the pros, and he just doesn't seem to have any feel or any idea what's going on. And the college game to the MLB game is completely different. It is night and day. And some of the managerial moves that he's made in terms of lineup construction, bullpen management, game management, some of the worst I've ever seen. And I think you go back to, I think it was a game on it was a game on Saturday. They were taking on the Mets. That said that the Mets were already up 5-0, and then Vitello brings in a reliever, and then boom, Tyrone Taylor hits who by the way might maybe hit the last home run by a player to ever wear number 15 for the Mets, because the Mets announced when they are retiring Carlos Beltran's number. Beltran going into the Hall of Fame this year, and he's going in as a Met, and he'll have his number retired in September by the team. So he hits a 3-run bomb, his first of the year, and that basically took the Giants out of any chance of coming back to win that game. And then on Sunday, the Giants were up 2-1 on the Giants were up 2-1 in the bottom of the seventh inning, to wrap up that 4-game series against the Mets, and the Giants had. Yeah, this was another interesting thing with um so with that game. So in the bottom of the seventh, the Giants were called for base runner interference, which was pretty much the right call. I didn't understand why. In that one, it was Gerard Encarnacion was called uh, for for batting interference, because his foot was on the grass side in play, and it prevented Mark Vientos from generating a put out at first base, unable to make the catch, but it was called for that. And then Tony Vitello was arguing the call. It was clear and obvious that Encarnacion was inside inside the base path, and Vittel was effectively ejected, and then this was after Logan Webb had thrown 7 brilliant innings against the Mets, and he was left to the bench coach to manage the game, and the Giants bullpen gave up 4 runs in the eighth inning against the Mets, so they lose 3 out of 4 to the Mets, and speaking of the Mets, they had some great starting pitching from Nolan McLean. Kodai Senga was a pitch away from throwing 6 scoreless against the Giants, and then Clay Holmes threw 7 scoreless innings on Saturday. So the Mets take 3 out of 4, and the Mets did see Juan Soto land on the injured list with a strained calf. So he's going to be expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll see how the Mets offense holds up in the time that he is away. The Red Sox have the worst record in baseball. They have a record of 2-8, and they've been having so many problems throughout the course of the young season so far. In Boston, I mean, it's I mean, but I think their problem really stems from the pitching, which was supposed to be a big strength for the Red Sox this year. And I mean, why I picked them to win a division and win a playoff series, go to the ALCS, but but the pitching's been bad. The defense has been bad. Roman Anthony had looked really bad defensively last night, and the Red Sox lost to the Milwaukee Brewers. And and I just think the Red Sox are an absolute mess right now. They've lost 3 in a row. They've lost 8 of their last 9 since shutting out the Reds on opening day, behind Garrett Crochet. And you also have to wonder, losing out, mishandling the the Devers Bregman situation last year, trading Devers, and then Bregman walks to signing a big contract with the Chicago Cubs this off season. So I think you wonder about that, and you also got to maybe wonder who's making the decisions with the Red Sox. So So that's a no. Red Sox are a mess right now. The ABS system, I couldn't believe after posting the episode last week that I never mentioned the ABS, but I think the ABS is working the way it's intended. But there have been some bad examples of that so far because I think there was a game last week where the Yankees had four ABS challenges overturned in a game against Seattle, a game the Yankees eventually lost. But it's but the and then there was the CP Buckner game a couple days before that. 2 Saturdays ago, where Buckner had several calls overturned in his own right, in terms of that as well. So, but I think you're seeing more of an implementation of that, and now you're starting to see the challenge system and everyone trying to figure out what's the best possible way to do that. So we have that. And then we also have to talk about the Yankees and the Dodgers. And the Yankees are off to a great start. They've won each of their first 3 series of the season so far. They start a 3-game set against the Athletics tonight at the stadium. So you definitely have that. You have you have the Dodgers, they've been putting on an offensive display, and this is with the absence of Mookie Betts, who has been able to who has been or has or who went on the injured list recently with a quad strain. No, excuse me, an oblique strain, but yeah, they're putting up runs in bunches. That they've averaged 6.8 runs per game, and in their last 4 games, they put up 13, 10, 8, and 14 runs against the Nationals and the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays got swept by the White Sox over the weekend, and those bad juju's have carried over at least into the opener last night in their 3-game set against the Dodgers in a World Series rematch up at the Rogers Center. So we'll see if the Blue Jays can get the ship righted over there. We got the Masters coming up this week, and score. And I don't feel qualified for this because because like golf is not really on my mind with baseball and football and all that stuff. But I do have a few picks that I think can win the Masters. I think you look at Cam Young, who won the Players Championship last month, and the last 2 Players Championship winners went on to win the Masters with Scotty and McIlroy. You also have to put Scotty Scheffler in the conversation because he is so superb at what he does. Rory McIlroy's having another strong. I think is having another. Um, is that I think it is having another strong season. Um, because he of course won the Masters last year, and he's been um and he's been consistently strong over the last few months. Though he did not play well in the Players Championship, and I think had to withdraw from the Arnold Palmer Invitational a couple last month. So you got that, but I do think Matt Fitzpatrick has a great shot because Fitzpatrick has been playing as well as anybody on tour over the last 5 months, and that in his last 2 tournaments he was second in the Players Championship and shot a 70 or below with each of the 4 rounds of the Players Championship, and then in the Valspar Championship the following week, He wound up winning by a stroke he shot. And in that tournament, he shot um uh, rounds of 69 or below in each of those four. He's been consistently strong, and I think he would be my pick right now to win the Masters. I also think Rory McIlroy and John Rahm have a shot to win the Masters as well. Now, I do want to give you some quick hitters on the NFL offseason so far, and I think the big news that came out of the last week in the NFL is that Dexter Lawrence, the sensational interior defensive lineman, all pro defensive tackle, the story broke yesterday from ESPN's Adam Schefter that he's requesting a trade from the New York Giants because this comes after he did not have a good year last year. He said that he was hampered by injuries, and he only registered half a sack a year ago. So that could be something. It could have been something that derailed him last season. But he was playing before that. He was playing at an All Pro level consistently. uh, let's see, I will be being double covered and played at such a high level before that. Lawrence signed a 4-year, $90 million extension with the Giants prior to 2023. He doesn't have any major any guaranteed money remaining. So he either wants the Giants to pay him or he wants out. Now, I don't. I think there is a less than a greater than 0% chance he actually does get traded, which I think which I would totally disagree with if you are a fan about my Giants, but some but I think it would be a disaster. I think not either way. But the one thing you do wonder about John Harbaugh is that he comes to this team. The Giants only have two picks in the top 100 because remember they traded their third round pick this year as part of the return package to draft Jackson Dart. So you have that, but you kind of wonder what the plan is for the New York Football Giants come the draft. So do they take Caleb Downs at 5? Because I think John Harbaugh is really tied to him if you based upon what he saw from Kyle Hamilton last year in Baltimore. And then you also have 37. So do the Giants trade back in the first round to get themselves more picks and more and better access to some of the top prospects in college football? Or are they going to take BPA at 5? Whether they view it as Sonny Styles or Avril Reese. I don't think Avril Reese is gonna go. I feel like Avril Reese is gonna be the pick for the Jets at 2. Or are they going to take someone like Caleb Downs from Ohio State, Carnell Tate from Ohio State, Mekhi Lemon from USC? So it will be a fascinating team to watch. I think the Dexter Lawrence situation unfolding adds another wrinkle to what is a complex story developing as in East Rutherford, New Jersey, for the New York Football Giants as they begin their offseason program today, which they can do because they have a new head coach in John Harbaugh. Now, I do want to give you some more expand my takes on the draft because the draft is 16 days away. Round 1 of the draft will operate out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in 2 weeks and 2 days from now. And I think the best, most complete player in the NFL draft, in my opinion, is Sonny Styles because he is big, fast, physical, and he really and his play really exploded under under the guidance of Matt Patricia, who might not be the best, might be the best head coach, as Lions fans can attest to, but he's still a brilliant defensive mind, and I think and I think Sonny Styles, I think, would be a game changer at the linebacker position. Yeah, he's already had pre-draft visits with four teams: the Cincinnati Bengals, the Dallas Cowboys, the Jets, and the Commanders. And I don't think Avril Reese is not far behind on my chart. I have in terms of the linebacking core. Although I think if you are a team like the Giants, and I know how much the Giants love Caleb Downs, but I think if Sonny Styles is there at 5, and knowing the Giants have a huge hole at the linebacker position, they haven't had a legit linebacker play in so long. I think Sonny Styles would be a home run pick by the New York Giants, by Joe Shane and John Harbaugh, if he's there at 5. Caleb Downs, I think, is the second or third best defensive player in the drafts. I it might be, and I do think, even if Styles is there, Caleb Downs would be a great pick, I think, for the Giants. I think there are two wide receivers that I really like. Cardinal Tate, Micaiah Lemon are the two. Although a deep sleeper, I think, is Chris Brazell from the University of Tennessee, because he is a tall, imposing receiver that has a lot of Randy Moss um connections and comps. So we'll see about that. Jeremiah Love is gonna be a sensational running back, but we wonder where he's gonna land up. So does he go to the Titans at 4? Does he go to the Giants at 5? Because maybe the Giants might have some concerns about Cam Scatterboo's ability to stay healthy, so maybe that's the guy the Giants go to at 5. I would disagree with the pick, because of the roster construction aspect of it. So we'll see about that. I think there are two outstanding corner prospects in the draft. You got Mansour Delane from LSU and Jamal McCoy from Tennessee. I think both will be great picks by whoever takes them. Especially teams that are in need of a corner, like if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, do you take one of those two at 9 to replace Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson? I could see one of those two guys be taken by the Kansas City Chiefs at number 9. And then I think the best edge rusher in the draft, I think, is David Bailey. And I think David Bailey makes a lot of sense. I think if you are a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, with the first of their first round picks. David Bailey's also had pre-draft visits with the Cardinals, the Chiefs, and the Tennessee Titans. So I feel like David Bailey might be to me, is the most likely first round pick, I think, for the Dallas Cowboys. And look, the Cowboys really have a chance to maybe be the best team in the division, because if you look at, I mean, they might have the best quarterback in the division going into this year, because there's a lot of there's a lot of chatter with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and an article that Jeremy Fowler dropped last week about some of the red flags that have been coming out within the organization about Jalen Hurts, and with all the different systems that he's had to learn. But you could but the goal for the Cowboys is really to build a roster that makes them the favorites to win the NFC East by the start of the season. So we'll see how that transpires. And then I do want to cap off on the quarterbacks, and as I mentioned, Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson, I think are the only two quarterbacks that I would draft to be your starter this upcoming season. So I think you look at so I think you look at that. I wonder about but I think the situation the Giants have had last year with the quarterback and that they drafted best player available at 3 and Abdul Carter and then traded up for Jackson Dart. I wonder if the Arizona Cardinals are in this are going to be in this situation as well. They obviously need a new franchise quarterback. They because they cut ties with Kyle Murray. Murray goes to sign with the Minnesota Vikings. So do we expect from the Cardinals? Because if we look at the quarterback depth chart for the Arizona Cardinals. It is it might be one of the worst in the entire league at this point. Jacoby Brissett is in line to be the starter, but it won't be sustainable in Arizona. So maybe do you trade back into the first round and draft Ty Simpson from Bama? Make sure you get the 5th-year option available for Ty Simpson, and then let him watch and start the season on the bench. Jacoby Brissett would still be in line to be the week 1 starter for Arizona, and then eventually incorporate Ty Simpson into the game plan for the future because I think it would be a great spot for the Cardinals because you have a head coach who is an offensive mind. He worked under Sean McVay last year in LA, and then then you trade back into the first round and get your quarterback of the future in Ty Simpson. Wonder what that's going to be like for uh for the things involved. So we have 5 teams that own 2 first-round picks. The Jets have picks 2 and 16. The Chiefs have 9 and 29. The Chiefs have that first-round pick because of the McDuffie trade. The Jets have 16 because of the Sauce Gardner trade. The Cowboys have 12 and 20. The 20th overall pick comes from the Micah Parsons trade. The Browns at the Browns have picked 6 and 24. The Browns have picked 24 because with the Jaguars trading up um for Travis Hunter. And then the Dolphins have picks 11 and 30 with pick 30 coming from the Broncos in the Jalen Waddle trade 3 weeks ago. That's obviously things with the NFL. Some quick hitters on the NHL with 10 days left in the regular season at the time of this recording, and there's been some shakeups. The Buffalo Sabres, they ended their 15-year playoff drought on Saturday by virtue of the Red Wings losing in regulation to the Rangers. So how what one of the best stories of the entire NHL season has been the Sabres ending the long playoff drought and Lindy Ruff. This is the 3rd time that he's taken a team that was facing a 5-year playoff drought and took them to the playoffs. He did that with the Dallas Stars 11 years ago. He did that with the Devils in 2023. They actually won a 7-game series in that season before losing in round 2 to Carolina that year, and now taking the team that hadn't made the playoffs since he left. And Lindy Ruff has them playing some inspired hockey for the better part of 4 months now, and has the Sabres in the playoffs and in a spot where they can even try and go and win the division, the Atlantic Division away from Tampa Bay. So we'll see how that race transpires. The Islanders made an Easter surprise. They fired Patrick Waugh as their head coach. He had been the coach of parts of 3 seasons for the New York Islanders. This is on the heels of the Islanders just completely floundering in the last week or so. They lost 4 straight games in regulation, including some inexplicable losses to at home along the way. And then they brought in Peter DeBoer to be the head coach, and they signed him to a long-term contract to be the head coach. So we'll see how that transpires. It is definitely a gutsy call, but we'll see how that transpires for the Islanders. The Devils finally fired Tom Fitzgerald. Because Fitzgerald just had a bad offseason plan and a roster that had one of the more up and coming promising futures in the NHL with the likes of Jack Hughes and Timo Meyer amongst others. That they just completely collapsed and played some bad hockey in December and January, which took them out of the race for the playoffs there. And then if you look at the wild standings in the Eastern Conference in the NHL, that so that you have in the East. So you have the 12 of your 16 teams have 87 points or more. Actually, I'll put it this way. Actually, 11 of those 16 teams in the East have 88 or more points. Only 3 teams in the West have those numbers as well. So definitely definitely something to think about there. So that you have the Red Wings trying to make a push. The Blue Jackets they've run out of steam. I think I don't see them making it when it's all said and done. But although great run regardless by the Jackets since changing coaches. Um, that you have Philadelphia, you have the Islanders, a monster game for Philly tonight against the Devils. The Devils just fired their general manager, so we'll see what's like. And then the Flyers have a big road trip. They have New Jersey, Detroit, and Winnipeg. At the surging Winnipeg Jets on their next road trip, and listen, the Jets had the worst record in the NHL. I believe it was through the end of the year. Part of it was the injury to Connor Hellebuck, who of course was the goaltender for the U.S. hockey team, winning the gold medal this year. And then you have uh, uh, then you have a whole slew of teams. Ottawa in the mix, obviously. We'll see how Ottawa goes about it. A big game tonight against Tampa, and Tampa is still trying to go for the division and maybe even the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see. Is that if Ottawa is up for the task for that. So lots of good stuff in the NHL, but you have a competitive race in the West as well, and because you have Colorado that's closing in on winning the President's Trophy for I think the second time in 5 years. So we'll see how that is. But it's going to be a fascinating last 10 days of the NHL regular season, and I definitely I can't wait for that. Then I do want to cap off with some NBA takes because you have because right now you have I think the big story right now is the chase for the top seed in the Western Conference. San Antonio is still 2.5 back. Their elimination number from winning the number 1 overall seed in the NBA playoffs, I believe, is 4 or 3 or something like that. So there's still lots of basketball to be played between now and the end of the regular season on Sunday, but I think you have that as well. The Celtics are starting to pull away for the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're 2.5 up on the Knicks with 4 games to play. The Knicks only have 3 to play, but but the Celtics can wrap up the number 2 seed within the next couple of days for when it's all said and done there. Um, with that, the tanking problem has just been a disgrace in the NBA. That the 10 teams that have been tanking have been so bad. They and like the gap between those 10 teams is so bad, and so but it's mainly because of how good this NBA draft class is going to be next year. So we'll have some takes. We'll have some picks for the NBA playoffs starting because starting next weekend. So we'll definitely have our eyes and ears tuned in on that. So that's a wrap of today's edition of Hooked on Sports. Thank you so very much for listening to the podcast today. My name is John Flynn saying so long. I'll be back here on the podcast next week. Take care, everybody, and so long.